Like, who do you make the most amount of money from? Who do you enjoy working with the most? And who do you think that based on what you're good at and all your strengths and your weaknesses, that you're going to deliver the best quality product or service for? That's kind of a good way of getting started to identify that. We need to make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons. Like anything good, the devil tries to pervert it and make the benefits that can derive from it become your master. But yeah, I mean, Jesus made it pretty clear he wasn't happy about the people that just kind of like didn't do anything with their talents. He was even much happier with the people that tried and failed.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Catholic Founders Podcast. I'm Silas Maynor, your host. On Catholic Founders, we are on a mission to understand how does one actually be a good Catholic business owner? In other words, how do we become instruments of God's will in the world? That's what we're on a mission to understand. We ask our guests this in various ways, and we explore this topic in many, many different ways. Before we do start, I do have an ask. If you are interested in getting your business in front of other Catholic business owners, we get hundreds of Catholic business owners reading and listening to the podcast and the newsletter every week. So if you'd like to really just get your brand in front of them on a regular basis to just convince them and remind them that you exist at all times, so that when you are doing outreach or you're doing some kind of growth tactics, as we're going to talk about today, that they remember you, right? So it's not just one DM. It's going to be, I've heard about you guys on Catholic Founder. So if you're interested in sponsoring the podcast or the newsletter or both, reach out to us at admin@Catholic Founders with your interest, and then we'll get you some more information from there. So today we're dropping the second part of our discussion with Jimmy Coleman. We previously discussed his conversion story and his story of building his business and his perspective on success before and after faith really mattered to him. We talked a lot about many other things too, but that was kind of the core point of that discussion. And today we're dropping the part that's focused on his, effectively, I call it his little mastermind on growth for your business. So he gives a lot of tactics on how to grow your business, how to get new leads, new customers, many just like, hey, very rudimentary things. Like, here's how you get started. So it's a really good thing for any Catholic business owner who wants to grow their business, whether you're very early on or you're a more established company. I think there's a lot of value in here. Personally, I've already begun to implement some of the things he shared, and it's been really, really game-changing for me personally. So again, that's just my own anecdote about it. But if you do want to follow his advice that he mentions about scaling your team and hire some offshore talent, I would recommend reaching out to admin@Catholic Founders with a little bit about what you're looking for, because as you probably know by now, Karen and I have this side project where we help her various connections in the Philippines who are Catholic people looking for good employment with good Catholic people who are going to treat them well. So lots of really nice people who have great skills who are looking to work for a better employer. So you as a Catholic business owner have an advantage on getting them to work for you. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy this episode with Jimmy. You've scaled that agency, Lead Baller. You're helping scale Arimathea. You're doing quite well at it. And then you've created this other project that helps others do that, and that's called Ex Cathedra. Can you explain a little bit what that is and why you're doing that?
Yeah, what's kind of fun is within Arimathea, I'm able to experiment. Back to what I said before about when there's one company, you're able to move a little bit quicker. When external things change that are out of your control, you can make adjustments, whatever. And yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with that. And sometimes what I'm doing here, just accidentally in 2025, I was just floating out ideas into my connections on LinkedIn, and hey, if this existed, would people be interested? What do people think about this? And people can scroll through my posts if they're really interested in that, and see that I do I test the waters constantly, and sometimes something gets like one reaction and no one cares, and that's fine. But then there's examples like with Saint Base where I thought like 3 to 10 people might say, yeah, that sounds like a cool idea, and then like 400 comments plus later. The reason that's a big deal is because, one, it's like it was a very Catholic thing, and then it wasn't just a very Catholic thing, it was a Catholic like marketing go-to-market strategy thing. So what's the total addressable market of that? I don't know, of people that are hanging out on LinkedIn. But we pretty much saturated that that market with that one post, which is really interesting to me. Is there's essentially that post was about building a Catholic target list for the use of prospecting, or to use that list to run ads to, or something like that. And then I had a form I had people fill out. I had like almost 200 people fill out that form, which who does that? Who fills out forms? And then I took a lot of discovery calls with people. And what I actually landed on is because I actually started doing a lot of more market research. There are a lot of existing things out there that people could bolt together if that's like the best thing that their business needs right now. And if people want that, maybe I can consult them and train them up on how to build a target list if that's what their heart desires. But after doing a lot of discovery calls, I noticed that people needed help with a whole lot more than just building a target list, which is extremely important, top of funnel, but is by itself, like it doesn't just do anything for you. You gotta go do something with it. And there's so many mistakes you can make along the way. And so, that's when I decided that I was going to launch, Ex Cathedra with the idea that, we'd be able to help companies and really like grow in one of 5 ways. So one way to grow is to add more customers. Like I call it kingdom expansion. And so that's just straight up go to market, business development strategies. And that has a whole playbook associated with it. Another one is to increase, I call it multiplying value, but that's just charging more money. Now it has to be justified. Usually you're going to charge your existing client base more money, but that's certainly one way you could grow your revenue. The third way is to multiply volume, which is increasing the number of times that you're charging people, which again has to be done in a way that is justified. And the fourth thing is you could call it, I call it stewardship. I'm trying to make it all faith aligned as I name these things, but this is like maximizing the efficiency of creating more time and more profit. Essentially, my business partner David is kind of the expert in this, and he's building out like Catholic AI agents that are automating some of the tasks that I'm training people on doing. We're not ready to sell those quite yet, but that's going to help people with profitability quite a bit. And then the fifth thing is like, I call it hidden treasures. This is a lot of finding underutilized assets within your company. I was just helping a buddy of mine. He has over 10,000 past customers that he has email addresses for. And he does every once in a while send like newsletter type of emails to them. And I asked him the questions like, hey, do you have potential channel partners that would love to pay you to have an advertisement in your newsletter? Like that's just free revenue just waiting for you right there, right? So those are the 5 ways that we're helping companies. We have people that are anywhere from like individual consultants that we're working with to Catholic colleges. And then in between you have people making like agencies and people making Catholic movies and cool things like that.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, man. I like that. I like this a lot. Let's go through a couple of core pieces. So if you are just getting started, like what are the key things that I need to know about scaling? If I'm just like, I've got a small business, I've maybe, made my first like 10, 50 grand or something like that, but I want to start scaling. What do I have to do? What do I have to know?
Yeah, I think wonderful question. So one is ideal customer profile is a really important thing, and some questions to identify. And obviously it's harder if you're just getting started, but you can kind of hypothesize a little bit. Like, who do you make the most amount of money from? Who do you enjoy working with the most? And who do you think that based on what you're good at and all your strengths and your weaknesses, that you're going to deliver the best quality product or service for? That's kind of a good way of getting started to identify that, and be really picky in the beginning, because eventually you can have like a whole whiteboard of all their characteristics and then say, okay, this is unreasonable. Like if we were to make sure every one of our clients has this characteristic, the total addressable market is like 3. So let's get rid of that one. And you kind of okay, this and this means the same thing essentially. Okay, cool. But then you might have a list of like, maybe 10 characteristics or something like that, or 5 characteristics or even 3 of an ideal customer profile of the type of people you get the best results from. Because you get this part the right way, the downstream effects are huge, because what I see happen a lot of times is people set up shop and then just take whoever's willing to give them money. And then they do really good work for this person over here, really bad work for this person over here. And then they're robbing from the people they do really good work from, because like this person over here is really stressful, and then their team is stressed, and it's like, it's a bad culture, and it's just a whole thing. So if you get ICP right, that's a huge deal. And then kind of similar to that is doing that like SWOT analysis of helping identify what are your strengths and your weaknesses in the business. I would make it instead of SWOT, just do SW, strengths and weaknesses. So just to keep it simple, like what are some of the things that you guys have to your advantage? What are your unfair advantages in the marketplace that you guys have? I was like, for example, my client that makes Catholic movies and has like their backgrounds are all super cool because they know how to do all that the right way. I like, yeah, having a podcast. I hate to be the guy that says, "Hey, what about a podcast?" But like for them, that makes a ton of sense because they can flex their muscle like that. That's just like it's like that to set up a world-class podcast for them, right? But for someone like myself, that might not be the best thing because it would actually be really hard for me to do. Maybe I talk too long and I'm not as likable, whatever. But you have to acknowledge what are your strengths and then what are your weaknesses and the things that you should then avoid, and that's going to influence your strategy, especially. And then I would say the other piece of this is your goals. And like some people maybe they have investors or something, and their runway before profitability is like 3 years or something. And then there's other people that are more of like, hey, I had a client do this to me where they said, initially we were going to do this strategy here. And then the day before we got started, they said, hey, actually, we don't know how we're going to make payroll at the end of the month. So we immediately switched to something that could pay their bills like immediately, which a little nugget for that is they have hundreds of past clients. And so I train them on a way that they could systematically get referrals from their existing client base. Those are the fastest of all leads that you get. Those close the fastest and are usually pretty decent quality. One other point I'll make on this is 3 simple things that most businesses are not doing that are just like super simple. I know like marketers like to make things sound really crazy just so that people are confused and then just pay them to do the work or whatever. But like have something in place, a rule, even if it's manual, a rule in place where you're going to take 10 of your ICPs and ask them every day whether they'd be interested in or open to having a conversation with you about doing business together.
Hey guys, Silas Maynor here. If you'd like to host a Catholic Founders meetup in your area, reach out to us today and we'll help you organize it. It's not good for us to build alone. It's better to work together with the other Catholic business owners in our community so that we can assert our influence and bring the culture back to God. But all of this starts with knowing who the other Catholic business owners are. It starts with friendship, whether that's over breakfast, over bagels, going to adoration and spending some time together for drinks afterwards, doesn't really matter. We can't do this without friendship. Reach out to us at admin@catholicfounders.com and we will help you organize your event, get started, and promote it. Thank you for being part of this community.
So let's say that you build a target list or something like that, and there's 1,000 people that you could potentially do business with. Attack like I just put up a number there, 10. It could be 40. It could be 5. But pick a number and stick to it. Make sure that one way or another that number every day gets accomplished. Like you have pads of paper as your business. Okay, so all right. Who's the ideal customer profile for these pads of paper? Who finds it? And then like go like digitally or in person, knock on their door and say, hey, would you be open to talking about buying my pads of paper? Would you be open to having a conversation about that? Right. And most people avoid that. People say that it's dead, cold outreach. They call it cold outreach. It's simply just going to people and asking whether because the goal of that is to identify whether there's an opportunity for you two to work together, not in that moment to sell them something. That's not the goal yet. It's not a sales call. You're trying to book a meeting. So doing that. The second thing is asking your existing customers whether they know people that you could talk to. Makes sense. It's kind of weird. People think you have to like work with someone for a year or whatever before doing that or get them a crazy result. People are actually most likely to do that within the first month of a relationship.
Wow.
Around that 30-day mark is where we found it to be best. For whatever reason, like, even if you're doing a wonderful job, I had this happen at Lead Baller all the time where we made people a cajillion dollars and they could pay us for the rest of their lifetime and still have a good ROI. But because, like this person on our team took too long to get back, they still remember the not good things, right? Some of the flaws and so their excitement can sometimes fade just because of silly things that in the grand scheme are not that significant, but it just is what it is. The third thing is have a process to follow up with people that don't buy from you right away, which depending on what stage of the process that you start taking this into account, it might be like 97% of the people that you ask, especially if you're having a mechanism that's going out and asking people to do business with you every day. If you were to take all the people you asked and then like didn't respond back to you, and then the ones that did respond back but said no, and then the ones that said yes to having a meeting with you but then didn't buy something from you, that's like is about 97%. So could you have a process to just stay top of mind with those people so that when the timing is right, they choose you? Or if you were to follow up more directly later on, they might be more open-minded that time around.
Well, I mean, these are really super actionable and very simple things. I even myself, I'm not like a newbie to all this, but a lot of these things are kind of really helpful for my own business. I appreciate this, man. Maybe I'm just being selfish and having you on here. Get some free consulting. But this is good. So where to start, get the ICP, and then look at your existing assets, and then get a process. Like it seems like just simple process of outreaching to those ICP, and then following up with your existing customers and asking for referrals, and if they're looking to do business again. So that's helpful. What are the, I guess, are there any other core things that you would share on how to scale? Like, I don't know if it's only about the lead generation aspect or other things like with hiring people, like as a company begins to scale, what are some of the core things that you would have them keep in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I pay close attention to, you can ethically, I think one of your sponsors helps people with this. You can ethically hire people at $8 to $10 per hour, maybe in the Philippines or something like that, and they're making a living wage for where they live. And that was a big part of Lead Builder. We had usually about 15 virtual assistants working at our company at a time. And it's a really scary thing to do at first because you don't know. It's kind of like with AI, right? It's like AI without the hype. So AI has so much hype around it. So you're kind of like peer pressured into using it, and okay, hey, actually that was not such a bad result or something, right? But hiring virtual assistants is sometimes scary because they make less money, and they're on the other side of the planet in some cases. So I dipped my toes in the water the first time, hired a girl named Jackie, and she worked for me for 3 years. She did an amazing job, and she loved working for me because most other companies that are hiring virtual assistants are like these giant companies that treat them like a number. They don't care about these people at all. So like if we were to wish them happy birthday or something like that, or like join a call and say, hey, how was your weekend or something, like we would have they would work at our company for such a long time. I'd say all this to say, going back to tactical things, we became pretty comfortable with this to the point where, I would have to look at the things that are on my plate and say, hey, this, and this can be done for $10 an hour. So why is the founder of the company doing it? And we were very mindful of that. When we're hiring someone, are we hiring them because we want them to tap on a keyboard and knock out tasks? Or do we hire them because we like the way that they think and we want them to make decisions on what the actions are that flow from that? And if that's the, how are they spending most of their time? Are they spending most of their time tapping on a keyboard, or are they steering the ship more so? And so we would be very mindful of that, because oftentimes what you'll have is a couple people that are bottlenecks to things getting done.
Yeah.
And that has to go. So that's a big. I was just helping one of my clients with this. He was sharing with me that before we jumped into building something that would add new customers to their pipeline, he said, hey, I just want to admit something. Our main go-to-market strategy right now is to go to events and shake hands, kiss babies with people, and know that a percentage of those people will follow up with us and want to hire us to do stuff, whatever. And so the problem is, though, in their CRM, he had over 200, there's about 250 plus or minus people. I know you might be listening to this, and I'm sorry, man, but I'm not going to make, no one's going to know that it's you. But he about 250 people that he met at events, he shook hands, kissed their babies, whatever, and he didn't follow up with them from like the past year because they're going to a lot of events and stuff. So basically the one thing that they are doing to grow their business, they're not really doing it because they're not following. Fortune's in the follow-up, right? So they're not following up with these people. They're hoping that these people just love them so much above all of their competitors as well that they're going to like pester them or something. So anyways, one of the things we worked on, and I get it, like I'm kind of that way myself, but I recognize that. I know that I'm not good at follow-up. So we build processes around that. And I have Whitney, who's been my assistant now for 5 years. We built a process. We did it for him because he has his own version of a Whitney working at his company that helps him that can help him with these things, but wasn't at the time. Where, okay, you're at a conference. You get the business card. There's a process. If you do get the business card, if you don't get the business card, let's say you got the business card, you take a picture of that business card, you send it to, let's make up a name, Sarah. And then you leave Sarah a voice note because you're not going to type it out. Let's just be real. You're not going to type it out. So you're going to take a picture of the card. You're going to put in this Slack channel. And you're going to say, hey, Sarah, met with this person. Here's the key facts. They do this. We talked about how he has 3 children and one of them is playing basketball right now. Just keep that in the CRM. And the next step is that he would like to meet for coffee, within a month after the conference. And then we built out a template for Sarah to send to every single person that they got this information for. And says, hey, this is Sarah. Heard that you spoke with Bob, and sounds like you guys had a great conversation. By the way, my son plays basketball too. He. And then here's some times that you guys could get together in the next month. And then she handles the back and forth coordination of all of it and makes it happen, follows up with the person in a certain number of days afterwards if they don't hear anything. Of all things, it wasn't lead generation. It wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't marketing. It was a process thing that is seemingly insignificant maybe, but that was the wall to growth for them. They're leaning into your strengths. They already had something that was working over here, but just needed to have this issue removed from the process. And but what's cool about that is now I'm seeing this client look at other things in that same way. Like, hey, what's a little bottleneck that we can create an SOP for and scale. And we had to do this. I'll show up after this. At Leadballer, we had to do this because we would book 130 sales calls per month. And one thing we weren't that good at is delegating sales to other people besides the co-founders. So it all fell on me and my business partner. And that's a lot of sales meetings every month. So while also running a company. So we had to treat ourselves as little princes, because it was every day we go into the day, we know that we have a certain number of meetings. We have an assistant that follows this process of hey, here's the person you're meeting with. Here's their LinkedIn profile. Here's a screenshot of the back and forth conversation that led to this conversation. I think that those are the main things. And then the meeting happens. It's all in the recording. That assistant knows to just go check the recording. Don't ask me too much about it. If I have other things I want to say, I'll leave a voice note in a certain Slack channel of saying, hey, I know we said this on the call, but actually after thinking about it, I want to do this instead. Go ahead and make the proposal based on all the things you saw in the recording and then this note, that whole thing. I think that I'm sharing this part because I think people feel guilty about doing this sometimes, but I think it's an okay thing to do. There is a saying that if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. And I want to give people permission to identify the things that they are doing that could be done for a lower dollar amount per hour.
Yeah. I mean, shout out Paraclete VA. That's honestly how I've scaled my company. That's how I've scaled my company so far. But a lot of the things you're saying are obviously, even though I've become a big proponent of being able to hire people overseas, especially we love to hire Catholics overseas because then we share their values. And it's the same thing. They appreciate that we actually don't treat them like numbers, which is such a low bar, but it is crazy. But there's so many these examples you're giving. Wow, I should really do that. I mean, the business cards at events, that's me all the time. I'm constantly getting business cards, and I even screenshot every time I connect to somebody on LinkedIn so I can go back and check it. But guess what? I don't ever do it, right? It doesn't actually get done. And then I sometimes feel like an imposter because I told these people I'd follow up and I didn't, right? So this is great. I mean, this is super tactical, man. I really appreciate that. Quick question for all the Catholic business owners listening. Are you running your business, or is your business running you through all of the admin tasks that you're doing on a regular basis? We see so many founders doing repeatable administrative tasks, and that's why we started Paraclete VA. We bridge the gap by connecting you with high-quality, Catholic, and vetted virtual assistants from all around the world who come from our existing network so that we know we can trust them. And so can you. Many of our Catholic Founders Guild members have hired through this service and are using this to offload their finance, marketing, administrative, and other busy work so that they can focus on what really matters and growing their business. It's the stuff that needs to get done but shouldn't be done by you. The cost is simple. Pay $500 on the day the candidate starts and $500 if you're still happy with them after 30 days. Most hires take less than 10 days to fill. Just email admin@catholicfounders.com with a little bit about what you're looking for. We'll send you some candidates, you do some interviews. Most of the time, you'll have your hire in under 10 days, and this way you can start focusing on what really matters. Stop doing the busy work and start moving the needle. I want to shift a little bit to on the macro. I mean, we want to scale our businesses, I'm assuming both of us, but I've had this debate sometimes with Catholic business owners about whether or not we should scale, because a lot of times scale is in the pursuit of having a bigger business, having more money. In some cases, I have friends who are like, hey, I just want to employ lots of people. I want to be an employer. That's all I care about. I don't actually care about necessarily margins. I care about employing people. Should every business try to scale in your perspective?
I don't know, maybe not every business. I have a friend in town here in the Charlotte area. I want to give a shout out to Zuzu. He's kind of like in our friend group. We always can count on him to be like a rock. He always makes himself sound dumb, and he's like tries to say that he has like a second grade education. It's not the case at all. The thing he leads with is like he's very genuine. He just has very good service. His business is an auto glass business, so kind of random.
He's awesome, by the way. He's in our Catholic Founders Guild, so he's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Zuzu's, which is funny because now he's like being discovered by like people outside of Charlotte. We all know how special Zuzu is, but it's kind of cool now to see that like other people outside of Charlotte are seeing that. He just tries to have amazing customer service, one human at a time, and we're having some conversations about whether we should work together. And his big thing was that he didn't want to scale in a way that damage the quality of the product. He just wants to offer a really high quality product to every person that really service that he's in front of. And so his condition is that he's okay with growth. I mean, um, the growth is providing value to both the customers and his employees. Man, what if every person on the plane was employed by Zuzu? We'd all be going to heaven probably, like, or have a better chance. And so there's that. Like, on the you kind of made the question, like, because that's a great way to scale and doing it in an ethical way. You asked the question, like, should every business try to scale? And obviously there's, you want to multiply the talents, right? Like you want to, we are asked to do that, but I think we also need to make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons. Like anything good, the devil tries to pervert it and make the benefits that can derive from it become your master, a false master. And so I also understand people that are, I'm not even sure if I have an absolute answer on this. I mean, I lean towards like, yeah, you should have a heart to multiply your talents as it says in the Bible, but also just really have some good examinations in place so that you know that you're doing it for the right reasons. And if you discover yourself doing it for the wrong reasons, slow down the pace of
Yeah.
what you're growing. But yeah, I mean, Jesus made it pretty clear he wasn't happy about the people that just kind of like didn't do anything with their talents. He was even much happier with the people that tried and failed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is part of the reason I asked the question is because I think what often happens is people hesitate to try to pursue scale if they're relatively pious people, is what I've perceived, because they're intentionally saying, like, I'm not in it for the money. But that is not necessarily just because there's like hypothetically more challenges, let's say you have more temptation towards like greed or something like that if you start to scale. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Just because there's dangers on the journey doesn't mean we shouldn't embark on the journey, right? It's not 1 + 1 does not equal 2 in that case. Like we know there's some dangers, but we also know that God gave us skills to do things, and He will be with us as we embark on that journey. We embrace those dangers in a way that He can guide us through them. And again, I'm not trying to say everybody has to try to grow their business to $100 million business or anything like that, but I do think that intentionally preventing growth, or even in some cases unintentionally holding yourself back because you have this kind of mental block that, hey, I can't do that because that would be greedy, that would be, I would just be focusing on money or whatever. Like if that's what you tell yourself, then that's probably the truth. But if you realize that, hey, you've been given skills, lean into them to whatever extent God wants you to. Because you mentioned this earlier, I can't remember the exact context you mentioned it, but about leaning into the outcome of whatever God gives. Like you don't have to have your own idea of what the outcome is, but just be willing to accept whatever outcome God has in mind for you, right? And this is what I want to encourage people, because we have to be ambitious for God. And if you're worried about it, you're probably the right person who should be scaling your business. That's my opinion, right? Like if you're the kind of person who's worried about like what's going to happen to your soul, and are you going to be tempted to sin or be greedy, you're probably the right person because you're thinking about these things. Just have that examination, go to daily mass, like make sure you put God first, and the rest of the things will fall into place. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to it is because I am thinking of a particular conversation, and if this guy's listening, he'll know it's him. But yeah, he was making it very clear he is anti-growth, and it was like killing me. It was really hard because I can't help myself. That's like, I love growing things. He was also kind of contradicting himself because they have a team of 2 right now, but he wants to have a team of 20. So I don't really know how you do that without growing. But one admission that he made though is that what might be the case is that he has these temptations that you were talking about, Silas, and he doesn't like trust himself on what he'll do but if that's the case, like, you don't have to like put that on me, because I think he was trying to make the case like businesses in general shouldn't like be growing and stuff. I don't know. It was kind of weird, but yeah, just because an individual themselves is struggling with that doesn't mean that like no businesses should be trying to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the whole point of it is like, and I'm not the type of person who actually says like the ultimate goal of every business should just be profit making. I actually do believe that entrepreneurship has a lot more noble outcomes than just being solely motivated by profit, because when you do that, it very quickly degrades your own spirit and the spirit of your employees, because they you know, I've given this example before, but basically if you're making bread just to make money, the way you make the bread is going to change and the motivation you have to make the bread is going to change. But if you're making bread to feed your neighbors and to like nourish your community, yes, you'll make money in the meantime. You probably actually make more money because you're doing it for the right reasons, but your people will be motivated to come to work because they're doing something that is benefiting other humans, other people in their community, rather than just putting money in their boss's pocket. And I think that this intentionality piece, it seems like such a silly thing, but it is really critical. And you even think about it in the terms of like in sin, right? Certain things are not a sin depending on the intention right behind it. And if that is the case with like something could be mortal versus a non-mortal sin just based on intention, like think about the difference it can make with business too. So that's one like aside, but I want to start wrapping this up a little bit here. Because you're building Ex Cathedra and you're specifically trying to help, Catholic businesses find their target list and scale and do this. I would like to get your take on what you think that Catholic businesses specifically get wrong about go-to-market. Ready to do business with people who actually share your faith? Join the Catholic Founders Guild today. For just $100 a year, you get access to our membership directory, expert-led monthly calls, and a network of potential investors and partners. There's no heavy time commitment, just a shared belief that we are all called to be instruments of God's will in the world, and not our own. Upgrade your subscription at catholicfounders.com/subscribe. I'm confident in saying it's the best $10 a month you'll ever spend on your business. See you in the Guild.
Yeah, so thank you for asking. A lot of them just aren't doing it. It's a beautiful thing. There's a saying that's better to be different is better than better and which is also funny enough that's true in a branding sense for differentiation. The thing that God made me interested in is go to market, outbound prospecting, things like that. And what's kind of just bonkers is like there isn't really anyone doing that. And even if a Catholic business wants help with that, there aren't a lot of people that know how to help them from a Catholic lens. And so prospecting is something that's just largely just not happening at all.
Mm.
And there's a lot of like what's great. Here's something we're doing a much better job of is like branding. Like there's actually a lot of think of like what Sherwood Fellows might be doing.
Yeah.
That's who we've been hiring at Arimathea. Obviously, like Coronation Media making beautiful movies, Spirit Juice, and like Catholic media is just balling right now. It's awesome. So there's people making really appealing, like very attractive brands, but oftentimes just waiting to see like who comes to them. Giving Marshallin a hard time about his content with that, or I do this a lot in general, is like people even post a lot of content, but then like wait for people have to be like the biggest fanboys of that individual.
Great job.
So much so that they're going to like get up off their seat and go ask them like, hey, can I do business with you? Like there's a lot of people just waiting for that to happen, that the moment to happen where most people need to be asked to the dance. Most people like want you to like come over and say, hey, would it make sense, for us to have a conversation about working together? And risk hearing no. I'll summarize it with that. Risking hearing no is the thing that a lot of I'm noticing that Catholic businesses are not doing. They're only taking the people that are coming to them, and there's a whole market that they could tap into by simply asking. There's a way to do it in a way that's not cringy. I promise.
Yeah. What are, I guess, the biggest gripes you have, broadly speaking, with some of the Catholic kind of business owner spaces? Like, I have a number of my own thoughts, but a lot of times it seems as though they're just trying to sell to Catholics only, or they think that because they're Catholic only, they're just going to get business. Like, are there any core gripes that you have aside from what they're getting wrong with go to market?
Yeah, I mean, we see that. I won't name names, but within Arimathea, as part of the reason that Arimathea exists is because we saw that there's a lot of options on things called Catholic. They put a little Catholic brand on it. Then you peel back the curtain. The companies that they're having people invest in are the same ones that the secular portfolio managers are organizing, and so they're really just cashing in on the Catholic name. And so certainly that absolutely happens. As far as I think I've confessed all my gripes as far as like because again. But I want to have a different attitude about it and not as much of a gripe, but more of like it's an opportunity and a way that I can help and just noticing that, yeah, a lot of Catholic-owned businesses are not comfortable with hearing the word no. You could even make the case you're asking like should Catholic companies grow and things. If their mission is what it is, then authentically, then we should want them to grow more so than secular businesses. So let's get aggressive about growth, but maximize human dignity at every step of the process.
Yeah, human dignity maxing, as we'll call it for the Gen Z crowd, right? Everything these days is something maxing, I swear. Cool, man. Well, there's a lot of other things I would love to talk to you about. I think what we should do is have you on another time to talk about these things. Like you've got a lot of insights, and I think I really resonate with a lot of the ways that you build just the mentality. And there's so many things that to me feel very similar. So I enjoy this conversation quite a lot. But let's wrap up with here a little bit of rapid fire. So, what is your favorite scripture?
Yeah, John 6:51-56.
What is that?
So this is eat my flesh, drink my blood. I ran across Charlotte for 50 miles with a giant flag that literally has eat my flesh, drink my blood, John 6:51-56 at the bottom of it. So I have to say that one's at the very top. That's all about, Jesus commanding us to eat his flesh, drink his blood.
Love it. Honestly, by the way, I was going to point out that the point about the script of the Eucharist is also the same reason for me that the only time I really doubted my faith or like tried to find a way to leave because I was like, man, it's so hard. It was like I couldn't do it because I believed in the Eucharist. Like it just becomes impossible to leave once you understand that. So I definitely appreciate that.
It's good.
Who is your favorite entrepreneur?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I can't be the number one John Cannon fanboy if I don't say John Cannon. He just played a very important role in my own faith journey, and it's so cool that he's my friend now. And that like a week ago we were chatting on the phone for like an hour about just businessy stuff and coming up with ideas and whatever. I'm just so grateful for that. Yeah, I'd probably say John. Yeah.
Nice. Two Johns, two answers in a row, right? Who's your favorite saint? Don't say John.
Man, hard to narrow it down. I have to give a special shout out to Saint Gemma Galgani. We named our daughter Gemma after her because she just like jumped into our lives like uninvited. I didn't know who she was, and my wife kind of didn't really either. But she started like making appearances to my wife during a time that she felt like there was some dark stuff going on. And yeah, she doesn't really give us like she's a very aggressive person too. So maybe I should like consider consecrating the business to her because she's uninvited. She was cold prospecting, but within her sainthood.
I love that, man. That's awesome. I'll have to read more. I don't know anything about Saint Gemma. I'll have to check that out. And then, what's your favorite devotion?
I don't know, dude. That's actually a weapon in the arsenal that I need to add. Honestly, can you give me one?
I mean,
maybe making it specific to the conversation today.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me, there's a lot of things I would say, but for me, daily mass I think is the most important for me. It's the one that's the hardest to commit to because you always have excuses as a business owner not to do it. But at the same time, as a business owner, you should be able to control your time enough that you can say, I'm going to go anyways. And I think personally, it is the biggest way to recall your nothingness or your kind of the pointlessness of just making money for money's sake. Because when you see the crucifix there, I mean, every church should have a crucifix. You see the crucifix at Mass and you understand that this is the sacrifice of the Mass, that God himself laid down his life for us, then it makes all of the stresses of business just go away. I currently go to daily Mass mostly in the mornings now, but for a while I was going midday, and it would just be such a great way to just pause and like let it go of all the stress. I only have one kid, so with four or the fourth on the way, I should say, for you, it might be harder. I may be making, it might be really challenging, but
no, actually, so I was at daily Mass this morning and the past couple of days as well. So, what's funny? Again, there's this is part of what I bring to the table as a newbie is I have like all this exciting energy and like cram Jesus down people's throats because I'm just so excited about discovering all this stuff. On the other hand, like there's so many like what does that word mean, whatever. So when you said devotion, I was like, like to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, to the whatever. But okay, yeah. So daily mass, I do that often, and then adoration is really cool because one, I'm not very like I feel like I'm not good at it, but you don't have to be good at it. It's a weird thing. You just let Jesus like wash over you. So usually when you show up, it's like, hey, am I doing all the things the right way? I'm kind of thinking about that stuff. I can't help to notice I'm getting distracted about stuff and frustrated with myself. And then at some point I'll snap out of it and I'll look at myself from the vantage point of God. I'll try. Yeah. And the closest thing I can get to is I have this video of watching my son when he was just 3 years old doing a Hail Mary. And he was like doing it oftentimes before dinner and stuff. And he's got this like sweet, precious little voice. And he's like saying certain words the wrong way. And it's like, it's so adorable. Like you don't care. Like it's so, I'm not going to Cassius is not, you're combining two words together or whatever. Like he's doing so many things wrong, but it's just so beautiful. And then so I'm kind of looking at the way that I'm watching Cassius do this and then seeing myself in adoration, choosing to pause my day when I have all these things going, all these pressures on me to put God first and just spend quality time with God and just thinking about how happy he is that I'm doing that and him watching me do that. And that's just a beautiful thing to reflect on for a guy that I tend to put a lot of, it's a thing I just can't help that I do. And I'm working on it is I'll just put all these burdens on my shoulders. I'll make myself feel bad about things. And so I think about that and then I can just sit there and appreciate that. Confession is beautiful for a similar reason because of the weight off your shoulders there. But yeah, adoration is a special place in my heart.
I appreciate that, man. I think for me, adoration is something I struggle to get to adoration on a regular basis, but a lot of people have told me like at the bare minimum, just like go visit a church. Like there doesn't have to be exposition. Like you just go visit a church because God is there, right? Spend at least 15 minutes with him a day. So maybe I'll have to get back into that now that there's like so many churches close by to where I live in Nashville. Awesome, Jamie. Well, this is an absolute pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate you doing this. Again, would like to have you on again soon. I would recommend people check out what you're doing with Ex Cathedra, especially if they're looking for consulting on help growing their business. And also, of course, check out Arimathea if you guys want to invest your money in the proper way and not you want to drop some bombs on Mammon along with Jimmy.
There you go.
So thanks so much for coming on, man. This has been a pleasure.
Thanks, buddy. God bless.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Catholic Founders. To me, this episode is just a little bit of a reminder that scale doesn't mean being greedy. You were given a gift, the gift of entrepreneurship, the gift of co-creation. And what you do with those skills is really, really important. But it's not about the outcomes. What matters is that the inputs are good. You put in good work without neglecting your family or your faith, and then allow God to determine the outcome, relinquishing that outcome to Him. When you do this and you keep at it, you're giving God the opportunity to use the skills He gave you however He sees fit. But intentionally putting water on the fire or holding back because you're worried you could become greedy, that's not what God is calling us to do. So if you're somebody who is tempted to slow things down and do less, don't. Keep building and give God the outcome. Give the outcome to God. On the other hand, if you're tempted to greed and pride, if your ambition is massive, make a conscious decision to give the outcome to God. Again, this is not about you. This is not about your success and your financial outcomes. This is about you having skills that God gave you specifically, and you're called to use them. You will be called to account on Judgment Day for that. Right? I know I always like to go to this kind of needs-based thing, but I really do believe this. I think we need to internalize what this means to have been given these skills. If you found any value in this episode, we would really appreciate you sharing it with one of your friends, or maybe if you're feeling very generous, post about it on your social media and tag us to spark some discussion. That would really help us. Do also reach out to Jimmy if you're looking for some advice further on these things. I'm sure he's glad to help you out. And he's got, obviously, as you can tell, a lot of advice there. His product is also going to be probably pretty helpful for you if you are interested in selling specifically to Catholics. So reach out to Jimmy directly. Tell him you heard the episode. Share it with your friends. I personally think that this is one of the most practical and tactical episodes that we've done so far, but that's just me. I'd love to hear your feedback. So thank you everybody for tuning in. And as always, remember that you were created to create. All right. God bless and happy building.